if you're in your 30s and you feel behind in life, then I need you to know that a lot of what's making you feel behind right now isn't actually proof that you're behind. It is proof, however, that you've reached the age where you can no longer ignore the gap between the life that you have and the life that you thought you would have by now. And that's the moment where you stop living on autopilot, which is the main driver in your 20s, and you start building your life more consciously. And that can create the kind of focus that you just don't have in your 20s. So in this video, I want to break down why so many women feel behind at 30, what is actually going on underneath that feeling, and what you should be focusing on instead if you want your 30s to become the decade where you're really growing and thriving. And let's start with the feeling that probably brought you to this video. A lot of women don't actually feel behind in the sense that they failed. They instead feel disillusioned, as in, I did what I was supposed to do, I worked hard, I was responsible, I tried to make good choices, so why does my life still not feel as solid as I thought it would? And I think this feeling is especially common in women who've done the whole good girl thing for most of their life. They did all the right things, and then suddenly you're 30 and you're like, okay, but where's the payoff? I thought I would have the feeling that I arrived somewhere by now. And the trap is that it doesn't necessarily happen in a dramatic, my life is falling apart kind of way, but more like a quiet disconnect where you have a job, but it doesn't feel like you're building towards anything meaningful, or you have money coming in, but you're not building financial freedom. And that's the part that is uncomfortable. Now, what's important to understand is that the path that you were told to follow, so school, job, work hard, be responsible, that path was never designed to give you freedom or options. It was designed to create stability. And stability is what keeps you safe. It doesn't move you forward, which is why you can do everything right and still feel like there is something missing. So what do you actually do about this? First, you need to get clear on what ahead actually means to you. So not what society says, but what it means to you. So I want you to just take 10 minutes and write down, what does success look like? For me, is it time freedom? Is it financial security? Is it building something of my own, being able to say no to things that I don't want to do? Because if you don't define this for yourself, then you will keep chasing a vague feeling of being ahead that you can actually never reach, because it doesn't mean the same to you as what it means to other people. And that's when you become stuck without really realizing it. The next thing I think is really important to talk about is the fact that a lot of women feel behind because they're measuring themselves against milestones that they haven't even properly examined. So yeah, maybe you thought you'd have a partner by now. Maybe you thought you'd own a home. Maybe you thought you'd be further ahead in your career. But the question is, do you actually want those things in the way that you think you do? Or do you want the feeling that you think those things would give you? Because the achievement and the feeling are not the same thing, and confusing the two keeps people stuck for years. So a lot of women, they don't necessarily want the house. They want a place that feels like home. They don't necessarily want the corporate career ladder. They want to feel impressive and validated. And when you don't separate the milestone from the emotional need underneath it, then you can spend years feeling behind without actually really knowing what you're trying to catch up to. So you actually have to ask yourself, what do I think would be different if I had that thing? And is there another way to build that feeling into my life right now? So a simple way of checking this is taking the one thing that you feel behind on and asking yourself, do I actually want this, or do I want how I think this would make me feel? Because otherwise you will end up chasing symbols instead of building substance. So now let's talk about the money side of this, because I think this is a huge part of it, and often a bigger part than people actually realize. When women say they feel behind, I think very often what they mean is that they don't yet have the financial foundation that would make them feel safe in their own life. And that is not something to ignore or downplay. So I don't want to just give you a fluffy message that it will all work out. No, if money is one of the reasons you feel behind, then the answer isn't shame, but it is strategy, which means that you need to start understanding your numbers. You need to take control of that, and you need to start seeing wealth building as part of adulthood. So I'm going to show you with a few steps how to fix this. And as I said, step one is fixing your numbers. You need to sit down and calculate two things: your monthly surplus, which is how much money is left after all of your expenses, and where that money is going. because you cannot fix what you don't measure. And most people, they avoid looking at their numbers because it feels uncomfortable. But once you actually see the numbers, the anxiety usually goes down because now you have something concrete to work with. Then the second step is creating a baseline. So even if your numbers aren't great, that is your starting point. Now decide how much of that surplus should go towards your financial goals, like saving and investing for your future. If you don't have a surplus, then it's time to create one, because if you want freedom, you cannot just keep earning and spending and hoping it will magically sort itself. So you need to track where your money is going, and you need to cut out the stuff that doesn't actually add value to your life so that there is more left for your actual goals. I actually have a really good budgeting resource to help with this, and I will link that in the description. The third step is to start investing. Even if you do it small, but open an investing account and pick a simple index fund or ETF to automate your contributions to. And it doesn't matter if it's $50 or $5,000. What matters is that you start. The anxiety around starting only goes away once you actually start. And if you don't know how to start investing as a beginner, then I have made a full video on that, which I will link here. Now, there's this other thing that I think hits women especially hard around this age, and that is timeline panic. And it's not just about marriage or kids or buying a house. It is deeper than that. It is this nagging feeling of, did I waste my 20s on the wrong path? Is it too late to change direction now? Or what if I've already made choices that locked me into something that I don't actually want? And that's why this feeling can be so uncomfortable, because it doesn't feel like something small that you can really fix. But what I need you to know is that this isn't really about timelines. It's an identity question. So the way you need to reframe this is your 20s weren't wasted. They were unstructured learning. You were figuring out what doesn't really work for you, what drains you, what actually matters to you. And that is not wasted time. That is data. But it's time to use that data. So ask yourself, what did I learn about myself in my 20s that I can apply now? What do I know that I don't want in my 30s? And if I could design my next 5 years without worrying about what anyone thinks, what would that look like? Write down your answers, because you're not starting from scratch anymore. You're starting with awareness, which puts you in a much stronger position than you might think. And if you want to pivot, your 30s are the perfect time to do it. You have more clarity, you have more experience, and you have more awareness than you did at 25. So stop thinking of 30 as a deadline. It is your launch pad. All right, so here's the most important shift that I want you to make. Stop thinking in timelines and start thinking in trajectories. Timeline thinking measures you against arbitrary milestones that society made up, but trajectory thinking measures whether your actions today are actually setting you up for more freedom and more wealth and more options over time. So let me give you some examples. Timeline thinking would be, I should own a house by now. Trajectory thinking is, am I building equity in something? Timeline thinking is, I should be further along in my career. Trajectory thinking is, am I increasing my earning power and learning skills that will pay off long term? Do you see the difference? Timeline thinking makes you feel stuck, and trajectory thinking gives you direction. So what are you going to do with this? Every time you catch yourself thinking, I should be further along, stop and reframe it. Ask, am I on a upward trajectory? If yes, that means you're not behind. You're building towards something. And that matters a lot more than whether it looks impressive yet or not. And if the answer to that is no, I'm not on the right trajectory, then you know what to change next and what steps to take. So if you're 30 and you've been feeling behind, I do hope that this video helped you see that the answer is not to shame yourself, and it's also not to soothe yourself with empty cliches. The real answer is to get honest, get intentional, and start building the thing that actually creates a solid life for you. And for me, one of the biggest part of that is building wealth and financial freedom, because the more secure you become, the more choices that you have. And the more choices that you have, the less trapped you feel by timelines, pressure, or other people's expectations and fears. So if you want to start working on that part of your life, I do have other videos on this channel about investing, building wealth, and learning how money actually works in a simple way. And if this video was helpful, I'd love it if you liked and subscribed, because I make content for women who want more than just looking like they have their lives together.